Hello and welcome. You are watching a News 9 exclusive here. I am Krishnakumar, and joining us on the show is none other than Dr. Vivek Lall, Chief Executive, General Atomics Global Corporation, a world-renowned scientist and a global leader in critical and emerging technologies. Dr. Vivek Lall, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us here on News 9 Live. I want to begin by talking about the big news, the prestigious award you received, the World Leaders Award 2024, that was bestowed upon you at the UK Parliament in the midst of so many global dignitaries and world leaders. Talk to us. What was that moment like?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and honor to speak with you, Krishna. Yes, it's very gratifying and very humbling to be recognized. I think we are in a world of great leapfrogging technologies, critical and emerging technologies, and I think many countries, like-minded countries, are interested in making progress in that. I have been working in the areas of aerospace technologies for a long time, so it was very gratifying to be recognized for that.
Okay. Now, the UK government and the UK Parliament wasn't the first to bestow a prestigious honor upon you. Just a couple of years ago, it was the US government, the Biden government in the US that gave you the Lifetime Achievement Award as well. Talk to us about that one.
Yeah, again, a very humbling moment in my life. It is, again, an honor to be recognized. There are so many entities and companies, governmental and non-governmental, that are involved in doing work to progress technology, whether it's in academia or whether it's in the industry and so forth. Progress technology in critical areas, whether we're talking about artificial intelligence, quantum computing, semiconductors, etc. So I think the fillip to all that being provided by some of us, it's very humbling when it's recognized, and we will continue to do that work in the interest of the global good.
All right, I want to dwell a little bit more on that because you've been a pivotal figure, an important person playing a key role when it comes to India-US ties on two very important sectors. One is defense and the other is advanced technology. So talk to us. You've been doing this for a good 2 decades now. Tell us the evolution of India-US ties and the rising importance when it comes to defense and advanced technologies.
Yes, as has been said, and I completely agree, this is the relationship of the century. I am deeply passionate about US-India ties because I think you have two democracies with common goals, and not only at bipartisan support in both countries for achieving those goals, but also implementing it through various mechanisms. There have been foundational agreements that have been inked between both the countries. A lot of trust has been built over the last couple of decades between both countries who work in the high-tech field. And indeed, we are seeing, especially recently, with the startup community in India, working at world-class levels. And so, it's now not only a one-way technology flow, it's a two-way technology flow. And also with India having such a great advantage with demographics and as well as innovation at an economic cost point, whether in space, whether in autonomy or other areas, it just makes for a perfect match. And I think we have just scratched the surface. I think the future holds very many more collaborations in various critical and emerging technology areas.
All right. Apart from technology and defense, another key area is, of course, trade and business. And you are somebody who serves on, the boards of so many chambers of commerce, including the Indo-US Business Council, as well as the US-Japan Business Council as well. Talk to us about, as far as trade ties are concerned, how far have we come, and where do you think it's heading towards?
Yes, I think if we look across sectors, there has been a great interest in furthering ties, and it's a genuine attempt in many sectors to create not only the width of the collaborations to be wider, but also the depth. And I have seen in the last several years that that depth has increased very significantly. And that the building blocks for that are, of course, trust and innovation, etc. So I think on trade, I think we again I think have scratched the surface. The trade numbers are robust. However, I think uh, where we can be is at a much larger on a much larger canvas. So I do feel that uh, depending on the sector, whether you look at the healthcare sector or the um, you know academic sector, or you look at um, space sector, you look at the defense sector, across the board, I think there is so much more to be had in terms of trade. And I just think, for example, within defense, we've now done $20 billion plus of defense trade in the last so many years. And I think that number can only grow in the future.
That number can only grow in the future. Before we go any further, so much of news today, even in India, is about the upcoming US presidential elections, considering the unprecedented goings on, from a missed assassination bid to a leader pulling out at the last possible stage ever in the history of America. Tell us, how are you viewing the events of the US election?
So, as I mentioned, both countries are democracies. I think the election process will play itself out. But what's very heartening is in terms of all the technologies and areas we've been talking about, regardless of where the political spectrum ends up lying, there is a great synergy between US and India. And that synergy is going to be the bedrock of future innovation and trade in the coming decades. And so I think there's bipartisan support. And you can see that in a lot of the initiatives taken by last several presidents of the United States with India. And so I think that'll continue.
All right. So you're saying that the outcome of this election will not impact the growth and progress of US-India relationship. And in that sense, what are the areas where you think the focus will be as far as the India-US relationship is concerned in the near-term future?
I think critical and emerging technologies is going to be an area which will get a great fillip in this, as it should, because that's a bedrock of innovation, and it's a bedrock of where the talent in both countries can interact at various levels, and I think the six, as I see it, there are six stakeholder buckets that will all benefit from that. One is the political spectrum. Second is the bureaucratic spectrum. The third is the industry captains on both sides. The fourth is academia, to include think tanks, universities, etc. And then the communications and media and the perception of the relationship will grow. And finally, the end users of whatever products or services we're talking about with all this leap in technology. So I think all six stakeholder buckets will be positively impacted.
All right, let's shift focus away from India-US to just India now. India just was presented with the union budget for financial year 2024-25. Talk to us. I want to know your views on what the budget looked like.
Yeah, I haven't studied it in detail, but from what I can gather, I mean, it's again, things are in India, the momentum is so great on various sectors that we have just discussed that the budget is very supportive of all that progress, and it will move India into a great place moving forward. So I'm very encouraged that this will continue the rise of India from a technology standpoint, and certainly, its place in the world.
And Going forward, talk to us. There's so much concern about the rising global geopolitical uncertainty. You've served on everything from Quad to NATO to you've been on some key roles in key global organizations. Tell us, how do you view the global geopolitical playing field at the moment?
Yes, certainly. I mean, some of this is unprecedented if you look at the geopolitics in the world in many areas. However, I do feel that, it's a time for conflict resolution, and I do feel that like-minded countries will come together um, to resolve these macro issues that are going on. And I do see a positive future because I think it'll be a matter of necessity, whether it's geopolitics or economics or so forth. And I do think that one aspect to this is deterrence. So going in the future, the way to deter a lot of unrest and uneasiness is through persistent ISR, if you will, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And I think persistent ISR is going to be a very key aspect of deterrence going forward. And ISR can be obtained through the space, through air, on the surface, but I think the most economical one is through the air and in present day. And so I think having a common operating picture by like-minded countries of the threats is a goal that like-minded countries should focus on and work towards.
And in that context, how do you view the roles of both India as well as the United States of America in bringing resolution to this global geopolitical uncertainty?
I think both countries are leaders that many countries look up to for resolution, and I do think in the days ahead and weeks ahead, that will continue to be the opinion of a greater number of countries. So I think both countries are in a pivotal leadership position to show the way, given that you have the oldest and the largest democracies hand in hand working towards global good.
The question I have to ask you is that how do you view India's status and position at this stage when it comes to being able to influence global events?
I think it's very significant if you see the rise of India in the last several years on the global stage and the true respect it commands on the global stage. It's very heartening because you have two democracies like the US and India working hand in hand, um, not only for the betterment of each country and each other's ecosystem, but also for global good and setting the example. And setting the example is an important aspect, I think, of the relationship. And I think uh, as a result, many of these formations that you talked about, whether it's the Quad or others, they all have a lot to gain by reflecting on how our the bilateral relationship is going.
I'm asking this question because there is a term, leader of the global south, that has been now that's been given in for India. So, in that sense, as the leader of the global south and going forward, how do you think India's position right now makes the relationship with the U.S. all the more better and different from what it was before?
Absolutely, because your sphere of influence is increasing out of respect, and people look up to you from a different perspective, not only from an economic perspective or a geopolitical perspective, but truly doing the right thing as the democracy. And so this is where United States and India shine and should continue to uh, showcase that example to the rest of the world.
Okay. Before we go any further, you have to talk about you and what do you do when you're not doing so many things. I mean, you've done everything from aviation to critical and emerging technologies. You're a checkered career, as an academician as well. Tell us, when you do so many things, how do you switch off And what do you do to switch off? What catches your fancy?
That's an interesting question, but I am very energized by the young population, the up and coming population in academics, and making sure that the opportunities in academics and the opportunities that are in front of the next generation of leaders um, is actually an important aspect for what I do, and so I am very energized by universities and think tanks and so forth that are trying to contribute in this area. I do think that any organization or any country is only as good as its people, and so increasing the quality and the understanding of the people in the global context and in understanding the world as we see it, not just from a very narrow lens, but rather a more global perspective, is so important for the future of our children, grandchildren, and next generation. So anything I can do to contribute um, to the upliftment of the newer generation is where I spend my extra time.
Okay, interesting, because you go from spending time with the next generation, the younger generation, to some of the most important advisory roles for which you've been called straight by the White House. You've played some important roles there. These two are two different worlds altogether, isn't it, Dr. Lal?
Yes, and I think they are different worlds, but they all kind of converge because we are ultimately, no matter which committee or no matter which advisory panel you look at, we ultimately end up on human resources and kind of the talent and the workforce development that is needed, not only on the technical side, but certainly on the financial side, on the business management side, and certainly at a national level too. So it is very important that in high schools and colleges and so forth, that one inculcates the talent and certainly exposes them to what the world will have to offer and what they can offer the world.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to the future. Talk to us. You've had a career that spans everything from defense to technology to academics. Talk to us. What is keeping you engaged now, and what are your plans for the immediate future?
Yeah, I would like to continue what I've been doing all my career, which is to continue leapfrogging in terms of technology developments, as well as bringing like-minded nations together, making, helping make in a small way the world a more secure and safe place. And in that regard, I think there are so many technologies, whether you talk on the defense side or the energy side, that require a lot of attention. And if I can down, it would be to collaboration, greater increased collaboration, because no one country has a fix on the best ideas or the best ways to implement things. But having strong collaborative models between like-minded countries is the way we can leapfrog into the future.
Right. Meanwhile, as far as India's future is concerned, India is now focused on its Atmanirbharta, making everything in India. I want to know your views on India's path towards being self-dependent.
I think it's a great initiative. I think it is much needed, and I think India has made great strides in it and will continue to make great strides. And as I said, it's a partnership model with where everyone learns, but yet India can move to a place where its policy has dictated it to go, and I think it's a laudable effort.
And you've seen India, from the time of the Make in India project was launched, become a leader, a global leader when it comes to making everything from smartphones to bicycles to even cricket bats. So in that sense, India has been achieving some critical success in some unexpected sectors, including making boots for the Russian army.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is also giving a fillip to not only know how but also know why. and innovating the next level of products beyond what exists, and not only for India, but for the export market. That will be very important in the years going forward.
Okay, and as far as India's tariffs are concerned, it was Trump who called India tariff king. Do you think that in the future you see any challenges on that front as far as the India-US trade tariffs are concerned?
I don't think so. I think the intent of um, both governments is to move towards a better place of increased trade and increased collaboration. And I think along the ways there'll certainly be issues that need to be addressed by both sides. But I think the overall trajectory and momentum is very strong, and the resolve is very strong. Like I said, on a bipartisan basis in both countries. So I think that will move forward.
Okay, just one last question. We're talking about, I'm talking to a global leader in critical and emerging technologies, artificial intelligence and the rate and pace of growth in AI technologies, and of course, the concerns that come along with it in terms of regulating it, and probably even creating a United Nations for artificial intelligence, a global body to regulate artificial intelligence. Where do you stand on the matter?
That is a very important aspect that you have raised. I think every country is looking at that from their own lens, given their own developments in that field. But certainly, I think moving forward, I think there's a lot of discussion going on within the think tank community, academic community, and certainly in the government community to come up with the policy prescriptions that will be required moving forward. I think there is, from what my conversations, I understand there's a lot of synergy, especially among democratic nations, on how that should move forward. Um, and obviously, in the local context of each country, there may be some uniqueness to it. But certainly, it is a work in progress. And I do think that we have to keep it a live conversation, because what is true today will not be true a month from now. That is the rapid pace of technology. And so there are buzzwords that we use today on various aspects that are only current today. In 5 years, 10 years, there'll be new buzzwords that we are not even speaking of today. So I think to keep it a live conversation and an adapted conversation so that it can evolve year to year or even more frequently will be critical, because you cannot just set one thing in stone and expect that to work for the next 10, 20 years.
And if I were to ask you artificial intelligence in the context of India-US ties, India and US both together have a critical and important role to play when it comes to the development of AI technologies.
Yes, indeed. And, I think at various level, I mean, artificial intelligence is a broad word. As you know, if you go into the technical details, there's a lot of aspects to it, but certainly US and India, I know, have engaged at many levels to not only from a technology perspective, but policy perspective. And it is one of the critical pillars of the ISET, the Critical and Emerging Technology Dialogue, that was initiated by both heads of state and being implemented by both NSAs with great success. And I think that will continue.
All right, we will leave it at that. Dr. Vivek Lall, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us here on News. And once again, congratulating you on the prestigious award, World Leaders Award 2024, presented to you at the UK Parliament. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Krishna. It's been a pleasure and honor.